We've had some major developments over the last, I guess, I want to say 72 hours. The first thing is that counteroffensive is underway properly in Ukraine. And I want to share my screen here with you. So let me just grab that and sort that out. So, alrighty. So the first thing I want to do is share the deep state map with you. So as I look at the deep state map, I can see just here, you can see, if you just click over to the right-hand side here, you see a little calendar, history calendar. So this is on the 9th of June. Today is the 13th of June. So 4 days ago, if I fast forward the clock here, if you just look over here to the side of where this reservoir is, that's where the dam was blown up. You can see the Ukrainians taking a fair bit of ground back there as well. So they've encroached in here. And as I come across the map here to the eastern side, I can see that the fighting is ongoing along this front line here. And they've made some inroads just a little bit over here, and Vela Novosilka, just to the north of where they are there. So they're making some inroads. So if I just pull the map back a couple of days to the 9th there, you can see the counteroffensive started there, and they've taken that ground back there as well. The blue denotes that they're holding the ground there, and the grey denotes that the fighting is still ongoing. So there's a little bit of fighting in and around Volodar as well, and not really very much going on up around Bakhmut up to the north there as well. The point is that the counteroffensive is underway, and despite what you may be hearing in mainstream media, there's still complete and total radio silence from the Ukrainian side. Actually, there's not much being said from their side. I've got a whole bunch of Russian Telegram channels that are part of my Telegram that I look at, and I can see these people actually being engaged by the enemy as well. There's a video here that I pulled out from the UATV. So this is the Ukrainian official, maybe the way I want to say that. You know, there's no delicate way to say this, folks. This is the Ukrainian propaganda. This is what they want you to hear. So this is intercepted phone calls from Russian soldiers, and this particular video, I'm not going to play it because they're talking Russian and it's just the subtitles, right? But what they're saying is they blew up the dam, and it was a team of saboteurs that blew up the dam. And if I pull it through there, you'll see there as well. But you know, I've been listening to these phone calls since the start of the war, and I kind of think, you know, is any of it even real? How do you know? How do you know you just don't have two Russian guys talking to each other and somebody's pressing the record button? The answer is you just don't know. You don't know. There's no way to verify if that's true or not. But if it is true, it's pretty damning, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So they've said that the dam was blown up by a team of Russian saboteurs, and it didn't do what they wanted it to do. And there's a couple of Russian soldiers on the phone talking back home to their family, complaining to their family that, yeah, this is like an absolute disaster. And there's one guy in that particular call talking about how they don't have food or water or clothes or anything to keep them warm and stuff like that as well. So again, just take it all with a grain of salt, because it could be what they want you to hear. And likewise with all of this deep state map stuff as well. You know, I look at it and go, okay, the fighting's ongoing there on the front lines, and that's what they're showing you. And you look at the videos that they look at, you look at the open source intelligence, you look at the timestamps and the location, the GPS location of the videos that you see, and the uploads of those videos. And look, you know, there's ways to game that system and whatnot as well. But a lot of this is verified, and it's verified by the deep state team. That's actually what they do. So I just want to move on from there because it's a bit of a stalemate, but I want to also show you here that this is what's going on. And I said at the top of the show, there's no more exercises, there's only disguises. And in Germany, the biggest NATO air exercise ever in history is about to kick off. So 25 nations are taking part in a 2-week-long exercise called Air Defender with around 10,000 personnel and 250 aircraft. So it begs the question to me, is this actually the beginning of the NATO and Russian engagement? There aren't no more exercises. This is all bullshit. You know, all the Russians under the guise of an exercise saying that we're not going to invade Ukraine, we're not going to invade Ukraine. And likewise here, NATO, we're not going to invade Russia or strike Crimea or anything like that. And when you look at that, the air task order that they could pull out for 250 aircraft could completely destroy the Russian front lines in a matter of days, which would allow the Ukrainians to go and take the ground with their troops as well. So I wonder, is this the beginning of World War III right here? You know, that's why I called it the World War III roundup. It's possible, you know, when you look at the deep state map and you look at the Russian positions where they're dug in, there's a lot of satellite photos about that. as you look towards Melitopol here in the middle, the way that they're dug in is in 3 or 4 different depths, if you like. So the first one is the obstacles to slow them down, then there's the infantry, and then there's the armor obstacles as well. And the Russians are dug in properly and they're not running away. But air power would destroy all of that and enable the Ukrainians to roll them up pretty quickly as well. So gosh, if there's 250 aircraft ready to go, I kind of wonder what's going on. Why do they put this out there anyway? Why are NATO talking about running exercises? Why wouldn't they keep that on the lowdown, particularly if you're doing it right on the border of Russia? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why they're putting that out there. You know, is this a show of force? We already know that you've got that. Why are they doing that? So, and this is the NATO website, by the way. So I look at this and just wonder what's going on behind it. Meanwhile, in North Korea, we have Kim Jong-un saying he wants to hold hands with Vladimir Putin as Russia and North Korea ties deepen. I don't really know what that means, that translation. He wants to hold hands. I mean, I think that what he's saying is that they want closer ties. So they're quoting him. That's what he says there. He wants to hold hands. So essentially what Pyongyang are saying is that the North Koreans support everything that the Russians are doing. So talk about the axis of evil. George Bush was right when he said that. Russia, North Korea, they are definitely in cahoots together. And it makes me wonder, would this actually be going on if Donald Trump was still in play? Because Donald Trump seemed to take the heat out of that conversation and all the missile testing went away. But as soon as Donald Trump went away, the missile testing ramped up to a point where we've never seen it before at that type of level. And their nuclear program has accelerated as well. So, you know, it begs the question, what would happen if Donald Trump got back in, and what would have happened if he was there? Would any of this garbage be going on? And I don't know. Trump says that there's no way Putin ever would have invaded, and he would have got in between these two guys and stopped anything from happening there as well, because the relations between the US and the DPRK were cooling down. Even though nothing was really happening, they were certainly cooling down, and Trump did a good job taking the heat out of that conversation, even though he didn't really do anything in the end. Like, there was no definitive outcome. And I guess the outcome that you could measure, the measurable thing there, is that Kim had slowed down on his missile testing. But as I mentioned, as soon as Trump went away, that actually accelerated as well. On the topic of missile testing, we reported just a couple of days ago that Iran says that they now have hypersonic missiles, and that's the hypersonic missile that they've got there. But they've also said that they're just literally a couple of days away from having a nuke. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei is warning the West that it cannot stop his country from obtaining nuclear weapons. So, man, oh man, I look at that and just think, well, what is really going on? That's what's happening on the front side of this. But what's happening behind the curtain? What is the unspoken truth? The unspoken truth is they've already got nukes, right? And I just want to pull on this thread a little bit, because this is a serious thing. When the Iranians have said for a long time that as soon as they get a nuke, they're going to destroy Israel. They've said that for a long time. And the Israelis have said for a long time, the equal amount of time, that we're never going to allow you to have a nuke. So it says to me that if Khamenei is coming out and in mainstream media reporting, saying that you can't stop us and we're just a couple of days from having it. And further down in that report, he goes, Iran doesn't want nuclear weapons. We don't want them. We don't want that. So there's a doctrine that was created, I want to say in 2010. It was Iranian doctrine where they came out and said nuclear weapons are actually Sharia. And what they said is nuclear EMP weapons are Sharia use of EMP, because the nuke actually doesn't kill anybody. We let the nuke off in the atmosphere and it turns the power off. And the fact that there's no power means that you die because there's no power, not because of a nuclear apocalypse. So, you know, their idea of nuclear weapons and, you know, their strange religious fundamental ideology and, you know, how they're justifying the use of nuclear weapons just doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what they're saying. And I look at that and think, well, if they're saying that they're just literally a couple of days away from obtaining a nuke if they wanted to, and what's worse, they've got a delivery system for it. Plenty of countries have tried to get nuclear weapons before, but they've just got no ways to deliver them. But we know the Iranians have got a really sophisticated missile system, and if they've got hypersonic missiles, whether they work or not, doesn't really matter. If they've got ballistic missiles, which we know that they do, and they have used them against Americans and allies before, and they're very effective. We know that that delivery system is capable of putting the nuke on the end of it. We're in big trouble. And the Israelis are in big trouble as well. And it says to me that we could just be just a couple of weeks away from an Israeli and Iranian conflict. And whether or not the Americans support them is altogether actually irrelevant, because Israel has said we will do whatever we need to do with or without a coalition to stop them from getting a nuke, because they're threatening to destroy us. And I look at that and go, man, this is escalating. And when you look at the headlines, you look at a bunch of different websites that I pull my sources from. You know, Ground News is one. There's the Guardian one. There is a really good source as well. There's several sources that I'm pulling it from. No one's really talking about it.